We have no problem as a New Democrat caucus saying this throne speech just doesn't deliver for Canadians. We're going to vote accordingly.
What is happening in Ottawa right now? First, a Liberal senator crosses the floor, and now the NDP are set to vote no confidence on Mark Carney's throne speech, potentially leading to a fall of the government. What is happening in Ottawa right now? Let's take a look. Interim NDP leader says party will vote against throne speech. New Democrat MPs are set to vote against the government's throne speech Wednesday, interim NDP leader Don Davies said. After a Wednesday caucus meeting, Davies said that 1.2 million Canadians sent New Democrats to Parliament to advocate for working families, and those priorities aren't reflected in the speech. Davies said there are few details around plans for healthcare and housing. Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon has said the vote on the throne speech is a confidence matter, which means it's the first real test of Prime Minister Mark Carney's government. If the government loses a confidence vote, it would be defeated. Davies said that while Canadians don't want an election right now, his party is taking a quote-unquote principled approach. This is insane, folks. If the NDP were trying to make any more of a statement in terms of whether or not they want to differentiate themselves from the Liberals, this is certainly on the right track to do it. So let's see what Don Davies had to say about this just recently.
The second thing I want to announce today is that New Democrats met in caucus this morning, and we decided that we are going to be voting no to the throne speech. 1.2 million Canadians sent New Democrats to this Parliament to advocate for working families across this country. And yet, in this throne speech, we don't see those priorities reflected. Millions of Canadians don't have access to an affordable home. They don't have access to timely health care, and they don't have access to the good family-sustaining jobs that they need. And yet the throne speech doesn't even mention the words healthcare. You won't even find those words in the throne speech. There is no mention of non-market housing, cooperative housing, or housing for Indigenous people, some of the most acute needs in this country when it comes to affordable housing. And it foreshadows $28 billion in cuts that will absolutely hurt working people across this country. So we will be voting no against the throne speech and making sure that the interests of working people across this country are reflected, and we'll continue to fight for those measures that we know that so many millions of Canadians and working families need in this country.
Wow, folks. Okay, so this is Davies being as clear can be. They are not going to vote for the throne speech. The throne speech is a confidence vote, folks. So if Mark Carney was counting on the NDP to support them through the first vote, not going to happen. And remember when we talked about this, we talked about what a mistake it was in our previous video that the Liberals did not give the NDP party status. Again, if I was Don Davies, I would have said to Mark Carney, if you give us party status, we will give you a confidence vote on the throne speech. And look what's happened. And we talked about how it may come back to bite him. And listen to where we are. And so now you have the Bloc and the Conservatives. If the Bloc join with the NDP, and the Conservatives have already said that they're voting against the throne speech, ladies and gentlemen, one of two things could happen. Number one, we could be going straight to an election again. It would be crazy for that to happen. Or, number two, we could have the beginnings of a coalition government between the NDP, the Bloc, and the Conservatives. How crazy would that be? It would be... I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. It would lead us to a constitutional crisis, and it would be interesting to see how that would actually play out in real time here. So, very, very interesting development in Ottawa. The government could fall today. the government could fall. So let's see what else happened in this press conference.
If the throne speech fails, are you ready for a potential election or the Conservatives having the opportunity to try to secure the confidence of the House?
Well, as my colleague just said in French, Canadians don't want an election right now, but Canadians also sent us here to take principled positions and advocate for the policies we know working people need. So, we have no problem as a New Democrat caucus saying this throne speech just doesn't deliver for Canadians. We're going to vote accordingly.
Does that mean that, it's a confidence vote, obviously? Should we take this as this is not a declaration from you guys that you don't have confidence in the government, or should we take it that way, that you don't have confidence already in the Carney government?
It's a clear message that this throne speech is not a worker-centred throne speech, and it does not deliver the priorities that we heard from millions of Canadians across this country. And so we can't support a throne speech that so badly misses the mark in terms of the economic and social policies that people need in this country. And so we're comfortable with our vote.
I'm gathering you're assuming that there's going to be enough votes to pass the throne speech. Otherwise, an election could be triggered. So is that a danger you're concerned about?
Well, in a minority parliament, you're always concerned about the impacts of our votes, but we're taking a principled approach. We've scanned the throne speech very carefully from cover to cover, and it's frankly, it's a conservative light throne speech. It's not a throne speech that reflects the priorities of New Democrats or the working Canadians that we represent. And so, we're taking the principled position on the throne speech, and we'll see what the other parties do.
And there you have it, folks. What a contrast to Jagmeet Singh, where the only reason he was voting confidence is to prevent the Conservatives from potentially forming government. Here's Don Davies saying, it doesn't matter whether or not we're ready for an election. What matters is that we stick to our principles. Canadians put us there on the principles. Now, I don't agree with the NDP. I don't agree with their platform, and I don't agree with virtually many of their policies. But you have to respect they finally learned their lesson. This is the evidence that they finally learned their lesson, and that they're saying, listen, we need to be listening to what our voters want. Because if we don't, we might as well pack our bags and leave politics. So this is them standing up and saying, doesn't matter whether we're ready for an election or not. This throne speech does not reflect the principles of our party. We see nothing in there that aligns with what we want. And so therefore, we are going to be voting against it. The other parties can do as they wish. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be on the cusp of another election.